Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm this is the Strand, one of the only independent bookstores left in America. And I am the events director who's way too tired and losing my train of thought. But I'm really thrilled to have Michael Ian Black here tonight. And you all are fans of his, so I probably don't need to go into everything he's done. But you're here, and he'll read a little bit of his new funny memoir. And he's been in countless television shows. And he's also written some movies. A couple. Yeah, a couple. And he's also done some stand-up touring. And if that wasn't enough, he also wrote a children's book. 4 children's books. I only saw 1 children's book, and a book of humorous essays. Yeah? Oh, you're prolific. And then, so he's going to read for 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. And then we also have A.J. Jacobs here, the man standing in there in the blue with the white folder in front of him. And he's the editor-at-large at Esquire magazine and has written 4 books, and 3 of them are bestsellers. I was just going to say that 1 was a bestseller, but I hear that 3. You're really... What happened to the 4th? Anyway, and then they will have a conversation for about 15 minutes, and we'll open it up for the floor for questions, and then they'll be signing books over here. All right? All right. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi guys. I'm gonna take a book. Also, I had the Mediterranean pizza at the hotel today, and the Mediterranean pizza is it's flatbread with salt. So now I just need this. All right. Hello. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming. What do you think? Is it better to stand here at the lectern or sit more casually? All right. That's what I'll do. No, but now you can't see, right? Maybe I should stand.
Now you're on our level.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to be on your level. I feel, oh man. I'm going to stand for a little bit. I'll stand and read just so you can see, because what's more visually exciting? Oh, but then you can't see. This is the worst book signing in the world. What? This is why independent bookstores are not surviving. What I'll do is I'll stand and pace. How's that? But then, of course, I won't be able to turn the page. I should have thought about this a little bit more. I apologize. I was a little late. I think the president's in town. Did you guys see that? And what I didn't notice is they park where he is, right on the block where he's going to be. They park 2 huge sanitation trucks on the street. So like if you had a car, you couldn't drive through. There was not that kind of security provided for me, I noticed when I showed up here. This is so new to me, having this book out, and subsequently I don't know what's good for reading and what's not. So I'll just I'm going to open up to a chapter at random, I think, and see how that goes. All right, I'll do this a little bit, and then maybe I'll do another one. This is chapter 14. It's entitled Pills and Booze. And this is page 165. I've spent the previous 164 pages complaining about everything. I feel the need to clarify something lest you get the wrong idea about my life. I am happy. Not all the time, certainly, but happy. More than that, I seem to get happier as the years go by. Not that I don't occasionally think about swerving my car into oncoming traffic, but those sorts of thoughts don't indicate unhappiness, they just mean I'm keeping my options open. Most of the time, I'm happy, because I'm on pills. I am a great fan of pills, and while I agree with those who say pills do not solve psychological problems, I'm of the opinion that masking the symptoms is just as good as curing the disease. The disease in this case is, of course, depression. I have it, you have it, everybody has it. Depression is to modern Americans what scurvy was to old-timey sailors. So common, it's barely worth discussing. I mention it only in so much as it affects me, although how much is sometimes hard to tell, because even to me, a sufferer, depression seems like a fetid load of weaselly claptrap, a cheap and easy excuse for not participating in life. Here's the page turn in Bravo. I do think depression has an evolutionary purpose. Think about it. If your circumstances are miserable enough, you will either do something to change them or die. Our evolutionary trajectory suggests that a lot of us decided to do the former rather than succumb to the latter. That's how we got from fire to the wheel to HD TV. And so that's the first few paragraphs of that. I'll read something else just to see. I'm just going to the beginnings of chapters. All right, this is chapter 8, page 91. 91. Well, it looks like you're reading along, so I was just helping you. I'll give you 91. Oh yeah, you got it. Terrified because it's terrifying. Martha wants a baby. She's my wife. Martha wants a baby. We've been married for a couple of years, and now she wants a kid. We have discussed having children before, and each agree that we want them, but we have some disagreements about quantity and timing. She is thinking 3, I am thinking 1. She is thinking now, I am thinking not now. When, she asks. Not now, I answer. There is no other answer. There is now, and there is not now. The appropriate time to have children is not now. But it's a perfect time. I'm not working, she says. It's true. She is not working. But the reason she is not working is that she is not looking for work. If she actually looked for a job, she might find one, which would make it an imperfect time to have a baby. I don't want to be an old mom, she says. Let's just get it over with. The statement, let's just get it over with, does not give me a lot of confidence in Martha's preparedness for motherhood. Then again, she has a point. If we start having kids now, we'll still be relatively young when they move out of the house. Is that a reason to start having children? Should I begin the most important undertaking of my life by rationalizing that the sooner I start, the sooner I will be done? I guess so. Here's the thing. Neither Martha nor I love kids. We're not like some people we know who pine for children. The stuff that I pine for usually either tastes delicious or requires AAA batteries. Yes, I want kids, but I want them in an abstract way, the way I want, say, a jukebox. Once in a while, I think to myself how fun it would be to have a jukebox. It sure would be neat to have a jukebox, I might think to myself, but I'm not actually going to buy one because they are big and expensive and because that would be stupid. All right, is that enough reading? I mean, sometimes the reading gets boring. We're just sitting here and reading. And one more. All right, I'll just sort of do randomly. All right, so this is a nice sort of conclusion to what I was just reading. Chapter 10, I hate my baby. We are 4 months into parenthood, and I hate my baby. When friends ask how it is going, I always answer the same way. Terrible. They think I'm kidding, but I am not. So far, being a dad sucks. The main problem is the sleep deprivation. Martha and I are always awake. Every day, all day. I feel as though I've been awake for 8 months out of the last 4. I have grown to know the wee hours of the night in an intimate and hostile way, the way I might get to know a prison cellmate. I cannot think. I cannot function. I am suffering. Martha is suffering too, but I do not care. Right now, I am immune to anybody's suffering but my own. Of course, I knew sleep deprivation would be a problem heading into parenthood, but I did not realize that when people said, "You won't get any sleep," what they were actually saying was, "You won't get any sleep." Elijah almost never stops crying. He cries every night from about 10 o'clock until 4 in the morning. He cries at 6:30 in the morning, again at 9, noon, and periodically throughout the day. Obviously, babies are supposed to cry, but not all the time, right? Why does he cry so much? What does he want? Why is my baby such a dick? All right, well, that's good. I mean, end on a laugh, right? That's a good way to end. So I'm going to bring AJ on now. AJ Jacobs, fabulous author, human guinea pig, and raconteur. And we'll sit, and then we'll have a nice conversation.
Well, thank you, Michael. I'm delighted to be here. I think I wouldn't say we're friends. We're like, no. I'm glad you agree. We are acquaintances, strong acquaintances though, sort of on the acquaintance spectrum towards the friend side. I would interject that our Hello? Okay. I would interject that our lack of friendship is not due to lack of liking each other. It's just that we don't see each other. That's right. You live in the suburbs.
I do.
But I've been a fan of his work, as they say, for a long, long time. I used to work at Entertainment Weekly, and I think I wrote an article about Viva Variety.
Oh, wow.
Which was called something like the best show you're not watching, which was a passive-aggressive headline.
A little bit, and it could also be probably... It's not me, right? This isn't working. And it could probably apply to every show that I've ever done. Not the best part necessarily, but the you're not watching it part.
And I love this book. I was glad to be asked to talk about it. As I say in my blurb, I say, it's no surprise Michael Ian Black's book is hysterical, but I was surprised how heartfelt and touching this memoir is. It's true, Michael Ian Black has emotions. That was a real revelation to me.
To me, too. I did not, damn, it's not me, right? The microphone is cutting in and out?
Here, why don't you have this one?
Well, because you'll have the same problem.
But I won't be talking that much.
Jessica, you don't have another mic, do you? All right, well, I'll try to do this.
Now it's working.
No, yeah, sure. It's working now. It's like, because I asked about it. I do have emotions, and there's a lot of stuff in this book that is very personal, and you guys heard jokes mostly, but then the trick that I did was I started the chapters being funny, and then at the end, everybody's just like, it's terrible, you love your family, but I do love my family, and I love my kids, and it's the most personal thing I've ever done, and it was kind of hard to trust that was okay, but I think it is.
Well, I want to talk more about it, but I asked you yesterday, I think, what I should talk to you about, and you said to ask the most inappropriate questions I could think of. And I actually thought I would outsource that, so I went on Twitter and asked for people's inappropriate questions. Can I throw a couple at you?
Yeah.
This one... They're not that inappropriate. They're just moderately inappropriate. But boxer briefs, or a merkin made of human skin. I thought, I like the ending there.
I have fairly specific ideas about underwear. I don't like boxers at all because I like to feel sheathed. And when I don't feel sheathed, I feel vulnerable. But I can't wear the jockeys either because they just look so terrible. So I have to wear the boxer briefs, but when I wear the boxer briefs, I feel self-conscious that I don't look like the models on the boxes of the boxer briefs. I don't have the washboard abs So as a result, what I do is I wear boxer briefs, but I do that trick with makeup where I contour my abs. It takes hours, you guys, but I think it's worth it.
Here's one from Benjamin Lund. He wanted to know, at what age did you know you were an asshole? Which I don't feel bad about asking, because I think in the book you call yourself an asshole about 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, I would say I'm like, you know how the religious right says we don't hate the sinner, we hate the sin? I think I'm sort of the sin. I'm not the sinner. I routinely do horrible things that I don't really mean to do them, but I do them. Like today, for example, I did a radio interview on a fairly big public radio station in which I called my wife a slut, and I was kidding, but this is on the heels of my wife and I just having a conversation in which she said, "Can you please stop saying horrible things about me?" And I said, "Absolutely. I won't do that again." And then I saw the opportunity to make the joke, and I had to weigh in milliseconds my love for my wife versus the cheap laugh that I could get. And the cheap laugh won out, as it always does. Last night was bad too. Meghan McCain was interviewing me because we're writing a book together. She was in the interviewer's chair, and I mean, I'm going to repeat what I said, even though it was horrible. And at the time, very specifically said, "You guys, that doesn't leave this room." And now here I am, repeating it. We were somehow the subject of her mom and dad. She's John McCain's daughter and Cindy McCain's daughter, and came up. And then sex came up, and then she said something cutting to me about fellatio or something. And then I said, "Oh, like your mom never sucked a dick." And it's like that kind of thing where you're like, "Oh, why are you such an asshole?"
And what was her response to that?
She laughed.
She didn't confirm or deny.
She didn't. I don't think she knew one way or the other. But I think she assumed that she had, just because everybody sucked a dick. AJ, you've sucked a dick.
Quite a few.
So I've been that way as long as I can remember. And it always gets me in trouble.
All right, just a couple more from the Twitters. This one, he was right here for a few minutes. Michael Showalter is a question from Emily Porterfield. Yes, he left, which might be good because it says, "I once saw your friend Showalter on the R train, nervously preparing for an audition. Do you think he got the part?"
I know he didn't. I mean, whatever he was preparing. I mean, I know everything he's done, and it wasn't that. Whatever it was, it wasn't that. Yeah, you're like, "Oh, Michael Showalter was here. Why didn't he stay for the reading and for the Q&A?" Because as big of an asshole as I am, he's a slightly bigger asshole. Right? He's here, right? He's like, "Oh, I don't think I can hang out."
Well, he wanted
why did you show up?
He wanted a free book. That's
free
why.
Fucking book.
He did. He made the trip for the book. He said, when I asked him what you would say to that, he predicted that you would make fun of him for being fat. So maybe you're...
No. Although he is fat.
All right, last one is, this one is from Rachel Wasserman. What race do you think is the sexiest? What's the sexiest race?
What religion do you think Rachel Wasserman is? I would say the 200 meter is the sexiest. Because the 100 meter, it's like those guys. They're really fast, but they're flighty. They're like the 200 meter. They look like the 100 meter, but they're just a little bit more grounded, I think. So yeah, the 200 meter.
I do that. I would agree. It's pretty hot. Onto the book a little now. The title. Tell me about the title. I actually know, but I'm pretending I don't. So tell me about the title.
It refers to an episode that happened with my wife when we were in Amsterdam together, and it was our honeymoon. And I know Amsterdam is a strange choice to go for your honeymoon. We went for the Anne Frank house.
Romantic.
Because it's our honeymoon. So it's like, let's see where they hid the girl. You know what I mean? It's sexy. So I'd never done drugs before. I'd never gotten high. And I was 27 years old, and I sort of thought, well, we're here. You know, it's like, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, kill Christians. So I said to my wife, after our third day there, I said, you know what we should do? We should get high. And she goes, yeah, man. It's not the way she sounds. She sounds like this. Yeah, man. So we go to coffee house, which is where they sell the marijuanas in Amsterdam, and we eat. First we eat a space cake, and nothing happens. And I'm like, it's not working. And then I go, you should go buy us a joint. And she goes, I really don't think that's a good idea because we just had the space cake, and I think you should wait for that to kick in. I'm like, well, it's been half an hour, so go buy us a joint. She's like, just wait a little while longer. And I go, you go buy us a joint. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing anything. I just... But she does. She buys us the joint, and she's like, so just do... you have to teach me how to inhale because I've never done that. And she's like, well, you know, it's really easy. You just, you know, you light it, and then you just hold it in your lungs, and then you release. So I do exactly what she does. I light it, hold it in my lungs, cough uncontrollably for 3 minutes, release. And she looks at me, and I'm like, it's not working. And she goes, well... She says the following 5 words, you're not doing it right, which I feel like neatly encapsulate how I feel about my entire life. And then 5 minutes later, I'm unconscious. I did turn into a panda bear, but I thought I won't go through the whole thing. Suffice to say, a panda bear is involved. The panda bear is I.
Now, I write about my wife in my books, and she...
Does she care? Does she hate it?
At the first, she hated it. You know, the first book, she really hated it. And I gave her veto power. And in the first book, she vetoed a section about her menstrual cycle, which was probably a good call. Yeah. Like, you know, I don't think America needs...
Because she was irregular?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say. It was censored. But... Did your wife get veto power over the book? Did she
wanted veto power. God. She wanted veto power. And I was like, I'm writing this book. And she's like, you can't write this book. And I'm like, no, I'm going to write the book. And she's like, you can't write it. And I'm like, well, fuck you. And she's like, no, fuck you. I get veto power. I'm like, that's not the way literature works. You can't have veto power because I'm an artist.
Sure.
So what we settled on was that she would be like a non-voting member of the UN Security Council, where she got to raise specific objections about things, and I would consider them, and then depending on my whim, I would either change them or not. The one thing that she really strongly objected to was in the chapter that I was just talking about, You're Not Doing It Right, where I talk about we go to we get pannenkoeken, which are just crepes, Dutch pancakes. And in the book I say, I got a ham and cheese crepe, she got a banana and Nutella crepe. And she read that and she goes, you have to change that. You have to change that. You got the banana and Nutella crepe. I got the ham and cheese crepe. I would never order a banana and Nutella crepe. That's what children eat. So I was like, well, if that's the biggest objection you have, all right. But now that the book's out, now she's actually getting more and more mad at me. Because the reaction to it is like, oh, I can't believe you're so honest about your marriage and that you make so many jokes about getting divorced and all the fights that you have and recounting in great detail, like all these problems that you have in your marriage. And now she's reading comments about it online, and she's never been in the public arena before. So it's making her really uncomfortable. And the specific objection she's having is that, one, people are misreading the book, I think a little bit, and going, oh, their marriage is in trouble and they're going to get divorced. And the second thing that people are misreading, I think, is that she's a bitch. because I say she's a bitch in the book, and I don't say that. But people are kind of misreading. But I think what's happening is that what we're realizing as a couple is that the level of intimacy that I think we have sort of conversationally and verbally, where we do sort of talk about everything and sort of share everything and do talk about like, oh, maybe we should get divorced. That would be great, wouldn't it? And maybe we should sleep around. That would be great too, wouldn't it? And like all this stuff. We don't act on any of it, but we have these conversations and we fight and we bicker the way I thought like couples did. But I think maybe in gauging the reaction of people to the book, maybe we sort of talk too much. Maybe we are a TMI couple. I don't know, but it didn't feel as personal to me writing it as it seems to be being received.
Well, I was wondering, because when I write something like, I just wrote a book about being healthy, and now I'm annoyed because I have to be healthy for the next couple of years, or,
Why?
Because I got to go on the book tour. I can't be fat on the book tour.
Right.
No one would buy.
So what you're saying is your publisher sends you out for a couple of years on a book tour, and mine just sends me down to Strand.
That's
and
it.
Like, good luck.
With the columns. But do you feel you have to stay married for a while because you can't, if you get divorced, it'd be bad for the book?
I feel like if I got divorced, it would be amazing for book sales right now.
So that's an option.
I think it's a very, very good option for me. Breitbart dropped dead today. I think that's going to be good for his book sales. So short of me doing that, I feel like divorce might be the next best thing. No, I don't know. I talk about in the book how I think when people think about marriage, they think about it in terms of like the rest of your life, as you should. But because I have no foresight, I'm not capable of seeing much beyond like the next 6 weeks. I only think of my marriage in 6-week increments, basically. I just think to myself, well, I'll be married this 6 weeks. And who knows about the next 6 weeks. God damn this microphone. And so it's been 13 years, and I imagine, we'll keep bumbling along 6 weeks at a time.
Yeah, that's like 300 renewals.
I don't know.
Yeah, something like. I actually think, marriage was built for people, when people lived till they were 28. So I actually think the 5-year renewal plan is not a bad idea.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that. I mean, if I guess I'm sort of the opinion now that I have kids, that parents, I'm becoming more conservative in certain ways. I feel like, for the most part, like you really should try to stick it out for the sake of the children. I mean, I know that's such a trite thing to say, but I actually think it is better for their sake that you kind of tough it out through the bad times. And I also find that when we have toughed it out, as we have, and we do it in a constructive way, that the marriage actually, as we emerge from that, is much more firmly rooted into the soil. And I'm in a weird way, I'm grateful for the hard times we've had, because it gives you a stronger foundation each time you go through it. And that's been great. And our foundation is now really strong because we fight all the time.
And she's a slut, I hear.
Yeah, she's horrible.
Well, maybe we should open it up to these guys and see what kind of questions they have, and then I think there'll be some signing.
Okay, great. I would like that. I gotta get some more water.
Here, why don't you take this one?
All right, yeah. Do you want that?
Yeah, I'll take the loose one.
Oh, sure.
Take one of these. Let me.
Do you want to?
I'll repeat people's questions.
Okay.
You'll repeat people's questions. All right. Hey, Mike.
I'm sorry, I'm just really thirsty.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. I remember you reading the excerpt about your father on NPR, and I did do the tears, everything, that whole bit. But my question to you is, what do you think it is about miserable circumstances, miserable people, Jews, that attract them into comedy, and what is some advice you have for an amateur comedian?
I dwell a lot on bad things that happen to me in the book because that makes for better booking. But I I don't know that my circumstances, I mean, were so miserable. They were maybe a little bit unusual, but no, I don't know. I didn't feel like so outside the norm. Lesbian mom, dead dad, all of that. You know that. And, but I do think that there is a certain amount of comedy that comes from emotional volatility. I wish I understood that better. I think the obvious answer and probably the correct answer is that comedy becomes your armor. And I think that was probably true with me. Because I was, even though, as AJ said, I don't express my emotions particularly well in public, the reason for that is because as a child, I was hypersensitive, hyper-prone to crying all the time, up until about the age of 12 or 13. And there was a very specific moment in my life when I decided I just need to stop this and turn off the spigot of my own vulnerability because it was causing me problems in school. So I did that, and I probably did that a little too well, and so now I'm slowly opening up the spigot. As far as becoming a comedian and an amateur comedian, I guess you want to become a professional comedian, it's actually very hard and very easy at the same time. It's very hard because it's hard to get people to give you money to do anything, but it's very easy because there's no barrier to entry to be a comedian. You can just do it. And that's one of the great things about this profession, is that there are places all over the city and indeed all over the nation and probably all over the world where you can just show up and tell jokes and gauge your own success. And even if you don't want to do that, because of the internet now, you can just turn a camera on yourself and make funnies and post them and gauge yourself that way. So the only thing I would say to you is just do the thing that you want to do, and the rest will follow if you do that in a committed way. Yes. Hello.
Hi. Did you write each chapter in like one sitting, or did you start one and then go start another one?
The question is, did I write each chapter in one sitting, or did I start one and then sort of bounce around? Is that what you're asking? It took me forever to write this book, and like 2.5 years, 3 years. And then when I finally saw it in hardcover, I was like, oh, is that all that I wrote? That's kind of disappointing, because it doesn't look like that much. I had a very hard time writing it because I'd never written about myself before. I didn't know how to do it. It was challenging for me. I didn't know how to do it in a compelling way. I didn't know how to do it in an honest way. So I had to teach myself how to write in my own voice, as strange as that sounds. I wrote a lot of chapters that I didn't use. I wrote chapters maybe a quarter of the way through, would skip to another chapter, would throw that out, would move that part to a different chapter. It was a very scattershot process. And, they say writing is mostly rewriting. In my case, that was true. It was mostly about figuring out what I wanted to say, saying it, and then figuring out a better way to say it. So yeah, it took a long time, and it was very difficult. That sort of answers your question, right? I could have answered it more concisely. I'm going to rewrite your answer, per AJ's suggestion. Yeah, I wrote all over the place. Yeah.
There's someone like you trust enough to sort of bounce your material off of for your stand-up or your books before you decide that it's funny enough, or is it just you sit alone and you just go with your gut and you decide that?
Well, the question is, do you bounce stuff off other people, or do you just trust yourself? I don't bounce it off other people, nor do I trust myself. I wish I had somebody. I wish I had like somebody that I could bounce things off of. But I mean, I could with my wife a little bit, but it's not the same. Particularly with something like this, where she reads it and all she's looking for is her name, sort of, as she's going through it, so she's not reading it objectively. With stand-up, I find I just try things out on stage and see how they go. With this, I really had to learn how to trust myself. And really listen to myself and trust that when something felt off, it probably was off. And I did it largely alone. I mean, obviously I have a great editor named Trish. She's here tonight. I won't point her out because it might embarrass her. She's going to Van Halen, though. I was not invited. Even though, like, my book literally came out this week, and it would have been like an awesome present if she had been like, hey, do you want to go to Van Halen with me tonight? I've been like, yeah, I want to go to Van Halen. But she didn't invite me. But I'm not going to point her out and embarrass her. She's over there.
But you don't bounce it off. You got some comedy friends like Mike Showalter, who,
I
by
do.
the way, was
Fat?
His first question. You apparently so. His first question was whether he was mentioned by name in the book, and I didn't see it. Maybe it was hidden in there, but
No, he's not.
Yeah. But that's why he left. That could have been part of it.
Well, this book is so focused on personal issues. There's nothing about my professional life in here, apart from just very casual mentions. So Michael Showalter, as much as I love him and as much as he is that part of my personal life, he didn't make the cut. Yeah.
You're very active on Twitter and obviously do with streaming stuff. What can you just talk a little bit about like what you think about comedy's presence on Twitter and whether this is going to be an indefinite supply of jokes freely given? I know you had mentioned, I've written thousands of jokes on Twitter, support. Like, do you think comedians are just going to keep feeding it to us?
Yeah, I do. The question is, do you think comedians will just keep giving out free material on Twitter?
Yeah, or what do you think?
Do I think there's a way to monetize it? I think the internet has been the best invention for comedians probably since the microphone, because it gives you a unlimited platform to do your comedy, and the internet itself, the way it's consumed, lends itself so beautifully to the consumption of comedy, because our attention spans tend to be, mine does anyway, about 15 seconds per thing. Like, I can just sort of zone in on something and then go to the next thing, go to the next thing. And jokes are structured in such a way that, you get your quick hit and then you move on. I think, and comedians are compelled to write comedy at all times. So they don't, obviously we want to make a living, but I don't think most comedians do it for the money or do it for anything other than they want to get a laugh. And incidentally, it's been great for comedians professionally too. I mean, I can think of a number of people on Twitter specifically who are building really nice careers doing stand-up, getting their own TV shows, getting book deals, getting writing assignments on television programs based largely off their Twitter feed. So it's been amazing for all of us, and I'm really grateful to Twitter. Do you like Twitter?
I do like it. I'm annoyed at myself because I knew about Twitter right at the beginning. So I feel like I knew about the gold rush in 1848, maybe, and then I waited till like 1853.
Right.
So I'm like the guy again, and now I have like nothing. It's sad.
Well, but you've got, I looked today, you've got 7,700 followers or something like that.
Yeah,
that's a respectable number.
You say that, but you have 1.7 million. See, it's
Oh,
a little
AJ.
condescending.
It's not about whose dick is bigger. Yeah.
I asked this with affection, but I remember a tweet from a few months ago where your wife and daughter went to a concert and you and your son were masturbating together.
There's no way I said that. There's no way I said that.
What's your plan for when your kids grow up and they have been a part of your community?
I imagine at some point they will have. I did not say my son and I were masturbating together. If you find it, I will be ashamed.
At the same time. You weren't implying you were masturbating with each other. You were just at the same time, perhaps in different.
Oh, maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was. Right. I kind of vaguely remember the tweet now. There will come a point, certainly, where my kids know what I do. They're 8 and 11, and they understand that I make jokes for a living and that I write children's books, 4 at last count, and that they know about this book, but they don't really quite get my sensibility, I think. And when they do, they'll be upset. Yeah.
Is there any future for, Stella projects or anything like that?
Stella projects. Stella is the name of my comedy trio with Michael Showalter and David Wayne. Thank you. And AJ, you would fit in Stella. I feel like you'd be a good Stella member.
I
Yeah.
actually appeared on Stella on the stage version. You didn't have me on the TV version.
What did you do?
I pretended to be a C-list actor named Noah Taylor.
I already like this bit.
Obviously very memorable.
Well, I think that's a funny C-list actor name, Noah Taylor. That makes me laugh. Almost as good as like Josh Charles or something like that.
Well, it is a real person.
Oh, Josh Charles is?
No, I don't know.
Oh, Noah Taylor is.
Yeah.
Oh, Josh Charles is here tonight.
Also a real person.
Also a real person. Star of the good. You'll wait your turn, but. Yes, but star of The Good Wife on CBS, Josh Charles.
What's your biggest advice when you're writing? Is it coffee, Twizzlers, Kit Kats,
Biggest writing vice? Honestly, it's Twitter. It's that I procrastinate and I go on Twitter. That's what I do. This book could have been written in 8 minutes if it wasn't for Twitter. That I can't. It's my procrastination technique, and I try to wean myself off it, and I can't. It's because it's just a distraction and it's an addiction like anything else. But I didn't answer your question from before, Stella. Yes, I'm sure we will do future projects together. There's been some talk of touring, maybe as early as this fall. Yes, ma'am.
You are incredibly prolific, and I just was wondering, so it started with stand-up, and then how did it start branching out?
It actually started with sketch comedy, my writing. I was in a sketch troupe called The State. We started at NYU. And the way The State worked was if you wanted to be in sketches, whoever wrote the sketches was responsible for casting the sketches, and you would direct the sketches. So if you wanted to have that control, you had to write them. So by necessity, you had to learn how to write. So that's what I did. And when we ended up with our own television show on MTV, and then suddenly the pace of writing increased by 100-fold. We had to write very quickly. And so I think if I'm prolific, it's because it's from those early experiences where you had to come in every day with 3 or 4 sketches to pitch, and I just got into a mindset of writing every single day, and that hasn't left me. So yeah, it started with sketches. Yes, sir.
Hi. A couple months ago, my wife and I were trying to find a movie to watch, and she said, "I want to watch Wet Hot American Summer 2," and I said, "That doesn't exist. You mean the 10? It's not as good, but it's all right." Recently, Showalter, I think, tweeted about how it's definitely on. David Wayne was on Comedy Bang Bang recently talking about it also. So maybe you want to be the third person to maybe say that it's definitely on?
As far as I know, it's not definitely on. I mean, they would know more than I do because Wet Hot American Summer is a movie that they wrote that I was in, and I know that they've been working on a script for a second one, and the cast has all said we'll do it, and that's, I mean, like I have a choice. I don't have a job, so yeah, of course I'm going to do it. But like Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler, Jeanine Garofalo, Bradley Cooper has not said he will do it again, but everybody except Bradley Cooper has said they will do it again.
By the way, one of the themes on good physical comedy.
I didn't mean to.
One of the themes on Twitter when I asked people for questions was Bradley Cooper. They're very interested because you have a lovely romantic sex scene with Bradley Cooper, so they wanted to know what it was like to kiss the sexiest man in the world.
Well, at the time, he wasn't the sexiest man alive. The year before, I had been voted People's Magazine Sexiest Man Alive, so it was a much bigger honor for him than it was for me. But we made Yeah, we made love. It was a weird thing because, much to everybody's surprise, I think, I am a straight man and had never been with a man in any way, had never kissed a man, had certainly never simulated intercourse with a man. And so we were both really, and he's straight too, and so both of us were really sort of stressed out about it leading up to the shoot. And so when it finally happened, what was the most sort of unsettling part of it for me was how normal and unweird it felt. Like, as soon as I started making out with him, I was like, oh, that's all this is? It's just like I'm just making out with somebody. And then, oh yeah, and so now I'm pretending to fuck this guy, and it's fine. It's totally fine. It's just kind of another day at the office for me. I could totally see being gay. Like, that would be totally fine. And then I was like, oh shit, you could be gay. Does that, and that was unsettling to me that I was so sort of nonplussed isn't the right word, but I use that word incorrectly all the time, so I will continue to. I was so nonplussed by the experience. It was like, whatever. So, I don't know, that sort of surprised me. I thought I would have more of a sort of adverse physical reaction to it. I didn't at all. It was like, he was good to kiss. That's why he's the sexiest man alive.
You were on the voting board.
What?
You were on the committee that helped vote.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yes, I was on the committee to help vote Bradley the sexiest man alive. I think he's done. If you saw him on the Oscars, though, he has that cheesy mustache now. Did you see that? Looks good on him. I was kind of annoyed. I was like, shit, you can pull that off. Hi.
Hey, I have a couple questions.
All right.
First is, in the beginning of your book, you talk about sometimes you have the opposite of deja vu, where you're like, you look around and you can't believe, like, this is your life, and I think I can relate, a lot of people can, but I wonder if you ever have the kind of fantasy about being somebody else, like, you wish you were a rock star, you wish you worked at the post office.
Yeah, those two common fantasies. Rock star or post office employee. I have those fantasies all the time. God, I wish I was sorting mail right now. I refer to that experience of deja vu is when you're doing something for the first time, but it feels like you've done it before. I sometimes have the opposite experience, which is where I'm doing things that I do every day, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, it feels like I'm doing it for the first time. Apparently, there's a word for that in German. Do you remember what that word is?
I actually have heard jamais vu.
Jamais vu?
Yeah,
Oui.
I think so. Is
Oh,
that
so
right?
French? Is that French?
I think so.
You read the encyclopedia.
I know.
so
I
you
think
should
it
know.
was literally in the
So I
encyclopedia.
guess it is a common thing, but I'd never heard anybody talk about it before. I call it deja vu in my book because I thought that was really clever. But I do, yes. The book is largely about sort of how I've been able to sort of learn to set aside those fantasies and set aside this idea, this preconceived notion of who I thought I wanted to be in favor of the person that I actually am. And so the person that I wanted to be my whole life was, bohemian and promiscuous and, a roustabout and just a problem. I wanted to be a problem, specifically a girl problem. But I'm not that person. Like, the person that I am today really is sort of who I really am. I'm a suburban dad. And learning to sort of accept that for myself was a challenge. And when I did it, ultimately, like, I found myself much, much happier. Yes?
So you talk, I don't know what the timeline was in terms of when you got married to when you actually started, I don't know how old you were, but you talk about sort of sharing that burden in the beginning of being single, et cetera. And so you hear a lot of women with careers talk about, finding that balance and being like drawn back and forth and questioning, how much time do I devote to family, how much time do I devote to career. Can you talk about how that, affected you or did it?
As a man? Well, I didn't know if you meant like in terms of my wife's career aspirations or my own. the question is like, how do you find the balance, I think, between professional and personal, right? And how do you combine those two? In my case, I'm lucky because my business, it lends itself to intense activity for short periods of time and then no activity, sometimes for long periods of time. So when my first child was born, my son, I was working on a TV show called Ed, and I was like number 7 on the call sheet, which meant I was the 7th most important character on the show. Which was great because I only had to work like 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and the rest of the time I could be home dealing primarily with my wife more than my kid. Because at that point, all he wanted was her. He didn't want me at all. So going to work was such a joy because it meant I could leave. And one of the nice things about being an actor is most of your time is spent waiting for everybody else to get ready, and then they give you like a little trailer, and then all my sleep during the first year of my son's life was at work. I would just go to work and sleep. And so, you know, the hours on a TV show can be long, like 14 hours, but my actual working was maybe, you know, 2 of those hours. So I would just sleep. It was so great. Since then, I have had to sort of struggle at times with doing, you know, as sexist as it sounds, I think in some ways, well, it's not, it is, well, it's sort of sexist. But men, I think, innately or maybe societally feel the obligation to provide for their families. It's just something in us. We really feel like this is something we have to do. Like, even if our wives work, we really feel like we need to provide on some level. It's just, I think it's, I don't know if it's genetic or not, but it's important. And the way you feel, I feel sort of most helpful and like I'm doing my job the best is to provide support, financial, otherwise, for my family. And so I struggle a lot with taking jobs versus being home, and my wife doesn't work, so, you know, I often am on the road doing things, and it is hard. It's hard to be away. More for me than for them. I don't think they particularly care when I'm gone. But after like a week or 2 of being away, yeah, it gets really lonely, and that's when it's good to just know sort of locally where the escort services are, and just being able to like take comfort in the arms of a stranger. Hi.
How do you feel about coming out as like?
I didn't come out. That.
Your book coming out.
Oh.
Sort of in tandem with other comedians, folks like Tina Fey and Mindy Kaling. Do you think the market is like more primed for comedic memoirs, or are you scared of that? Or?
I was very reluctant to write a comedic memoir. I didn't want to do it for that reason. I didn't want to feel like a bandwagon jumper. But the reason I did do it, first of all, I'm so reluctant to use the word memoir because it just sounds like such a pretentious word to me, and it implies a level of success that I don't feel like I've experienced, particularly, you know, in my business. You know, if somebody writes a memoir, somebody like Tina Fey, who's had like tremendous, overwhelming success. I haven't had that, and so this is I don't know what the right word for this is, but it's a memoir. But I didn't. I felt like again, this sounds pretentious too, but it sounds like I felt like I had to write the book because for a number of reasons. The first was I wrote another book called My Custom Van, which was just a stupid collection of essays, just one stupid essay after another. Totally absurd, totally ridiculous. To me, very funny, but like it had nothing to do with me. Like it wasn't personal in any way, but probably emblematic of where I was as a person. When I got done with that, I knew that I wanted to write something more cohesive. I knew I wanted to write something that held together. And I also felt like I needed to open myself up creatively, that the persona that I had been sort of playing with for 15 years at that point, 18 years, was wearing thin for me. And that I needed to take a step forward creatively. I also wanted to take a step forward as a writer. And I wanted, and so to do that, to do all that, I had to write something that was sort of personal and about what I cared about, and what I care about is my wife and kids. So that's what I wrote about. Hi.
This is a mate's question.
Mates question, yes. Mates is, it's an acronym. It stands for Mike and Tom Eat Snacks, which is a podcast that I do with my friend Tom Cavanaugh.
The first time we met, you kind of, I couldn't tell if you were joking or not, which is the case with a lot of comedians. You got upset that I didn't have a snack to give you.
I wasn't joking.
Well, I took the hint and I went out and got a snack and brought like snacks back the next week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but only European was there, and I'm sorry if this is alienating. It's not like we're friends, like no inside stories. You don't even know what I'm talking about.
No.
But yeah. But European was there, and he seemed so nice, and I'm one of those guys who tweets at you like every day on Twitter.
And do I ever respond?
No. Well, you did respond once.
Okay.
Yeah. It was because I threatened to drive a glass off the cliff.
It's a good tactic.
Yeah, it worked. But anyway, so I met European, and he seemed really great, and I know I sound desperate. I'm always trying to get like an internship out of you. But anyway, I was...
You don't sound desperate at all. I'm going to drive myself off a cliff if you don't give me an internship. You sound totally reasonable. Uh-huh.
It was a bus full of babies.
Oh, okay.
That was absurd, but it worked, as you pointed out. But yeah, European. I was curious after the transition with mates, and obviously you don't have to answer this, but was there anything more personal with the whole European thing?
No, I'll tell you exactly what happened. European is the name of our producer. His name's Ian, and we said he was from Europe, and so we called him European. He's not from Europe. I think he's from Vermont. But what happened was we were doing a sort of handshake deal with Comedy Central Records, and European works for Comedy Central Records, and the deal was basically like, yeah, you can use our facilities, and we'll see if we can make this into something. And then after about a year of us doing our podcast from there, the head of Comedy Central Records, who's a great guy named Jack, came to us and said, Ian is spending hours each week doing your podcast, and the podcast is bringing in zero revenue to our company, and so, essentially, we love you, but you're fired. And so we would like you to take your services elsewhere. And so we took our services to Tom's apartment, where the audio quality has noticeably diminished, but we can't get fired. So actually now we're with Nerdist Industries. I don't know if you guys know who that is. That's Chris Hardwick's company. And he's got a bunch of amazing podcasts. And so yeah, we just do it out of there, and it's been great. Our relationship with Ian and Jack is fine. Okay. Hi. Is there a topic that I consider taboo when writing jokes? No. No, I do think, though, it's a common question, and I do think if you're going to make a joke about something, understand the joke that you're making. A lot of times, and I've been guilty of this many times, you just sort of say something for the shock value. Like, when I said Breitbart dropped dead today, that's a shitty thing to say. But it sort of falls out of my mouth sometimes without me even meaning to. On Twitter, you can be a little bit more deliberative about the things that you say. And I think one of the conclusions that I've come to is just understand the joke that you're making. Like if you're saying something about baby AIDS, understand what you're saying and why you're saying it. Are you sort of making light of babies who have AIDS, or are you using sort of that uncomfortable phrase to make a larger point about something else? I try to do the latter as opposed to the former. I don't always live up to my own sort of credo, but no, I don't think anything's off limits. All right, one more. Yes, in the back. What am I going to write next? A sprawling 19th century historical novel about wheelwrights. Great question. I don't know. Oh, I do know actually. What am I saying? Of course I know. Well, it's because it's in my head. It's almost done. So I thought I thought I shouldn't say. Well, I mentioned that Meghan McCain had interviewed. I'm pointing at AJ because I'm pretending AJ is Meghan. Had interviewed me yesterday, and that's because, as I said, we're writing a book together. It's a road trip book. We took a road trip this past summer from West Coast to East Coast, and we didn't know each other when we started this book. We just got into an RV basically and started driving. And it's sort of about politics, and it's sort of about Republican versus Democrat, or rather than versus, let's say, Republican and Democrat, because it's more about common ground than it is about what separates us. And it's very anecdotal, and it's funny, and the book is called America, You Sexy Bitch, and it comes out this summer. It comes out before the election. So I hope it's good. I don't know. We're having our ghostwriters write it right now, and I haven't seen what the... So thank you guys very, very much for coming. Thank you, AJ. I really appreciate it. If you haven't read his books, they're fantastic. I think I told you, I listened to The Know-It-All on audio, and the guy they got to read you sounded so much like you. I thought it was weird. Did you think so?
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
No, it was. I just found it kind of nice and charming because I know you, and I felt like he sort of really captured your cadences. Have you heard it?
I have heard him. Yeah, Jeff Cantor. They make me read my own stuff.
I think that's good.
I think I don't know. It has its pluses and minuses. I mean, I wrote a book about the Bible, and I had to read.
The Year of Living Biblically, which is also excellent. AJ basically spends a year living biblically, like you do everything that the Bible tells you to do.
That's right, exactly.
It's insane what you did.
Grew my beard, stoned adulterers. But there were passages that I had to read from the Bible that were in the voice of God, and I don't think my voice is a very godly voice.
I strongly disagree. So I would encourage all of you to, and what's your new one? It's about getting, as you said, healthy.
Right, Drop Dead Healthy. It comes out in April.
I can't wait.
There you go.
Just thank you, AJ. That was great.
Thank you.